Hey, what's up everybody? Welcome to another episode of B is for Build. In today's episode, we're working on the R34, specifically the wide body kit. So we've test fitted this thing on there to see wheel specs and different things like that. Now it's time to fully install the body kit. Now this is different than any wide body kit we've done because this one is gonna be like a flush mounted body kit. It will have no rivets, no external bolts or anything like that. It's gonna look completely flush and look like it's an OEM body panel. At least that's the game plan. So I'm gonna show you guys how to do, go through that whole process of doing that in today's episode. Stay tuned. Before we get down to work, I want to take a second out to thank our sponsor. Today's episode is sponsored by ShipStation. You guys know I've shipped my fair share of merch in my day, and ShipStation makes it easy. They make it easy to organize all of the orders, get the best prices for shipping, and get all the labels printed and get everything out the door quickly. If you sell anything online, I don't need to tell you that shipping can be frustrating because there are so many different carriers to choose from and you want to find the best rate for the different types of packages you're shipping. But ShipStation makes all that very, very easy. So you can get back to what you're passionate about, which is growing your business, and let ShipStation handle all the little shipping nitty-gritty details. You can easily import orders from any sales channel, whether it's Amazon or eBay or Etsy or even your own website, and then automate just about any shipping task, all from one really easy to use dashboard. And changing your shipping solution can be really daunting, but with the holidays here and all of the sales going on, now is the time to think about making that change. ShipStation works with all the major shippers, domestic and international, including UPS, USPS, and FedEx. And they get you really, really good rates that are usually reserved for like Fortune 500 companies. So you can actually go ship at the same price that Target might get. So not only do they make it really easy, they help you save a bunch of money. It's no wonder that 98% of companies that use ShipStation for a year continue to use ShipStation for the entirety of their business. It's that good. So make this holiday season a little bit brighter with ShipStation. Just go to shipstation.com/BisForBuild and you will get a 60-day free trial. That's 60 days free at shipstation.com/BisForBuild. Huge thanks to ShipStation. It truly is a really good product that I've used for a really long time. It's the best option out there. The link is in the description. So if you're shipping stuff, go check it out. Make shipping happen for you. All right, thanks for the episode sponsorship. Let's get down to work. All right guys, in a previous episode you saw us get to this point. So this is just have a couple friends help you hold the panel in place where you want it, drill some holes through it, shove your Cleco pins through there. Now if you wanted to do this the really quick and dirty way a lot of drifters do this and stuff like that, is you just rivet along these edges, rivet it on there. Thing won't be coming off. But you want to do the step that we're going to do before this, which is prepping your wheel well, so you don't get a bunch of dirt and debris into your wheel well, and we'll show you that in a second. So there are a lot more steps to that though if you want to build like a really clean flush mounted wide body kit, and that's what we're going to be going through today. The first thing that we really need to be doing is getting room for the wheel to be able to articulate up into the fender, and also making room for our bodywork to make this transition. Fiberglass is thick. You need to be able to make this transition look seamless so you can't tell that we threw some extra body work onto here. Now to do that, we're gonna have to be doing a lot of sanding and a lot of body work in this area specifically, which means this glass has gotta come out. So I'm gonna go ahead and pop this trim off and try and cut that glass out without breaking it. We got the rear quarter glass removed, and I'll walk you through how we did it. Most of the procedures for removing rear quarter glass are either very expensive using a super expensive tool, or they're really, really like painstakingly hard to do. Most people basically just use a metal spatula with a sharpened blade. This is a Harbor Freight like oscillating tool, very, very inexpensive. This blade is modified by myself, and what I did was I just sharpened both sides, and then so you can cut with all sides. And basically, if we're pretending the glass is still in here, coming in from the inside, this thing, you can see how it kind of steps down. It allows me to get the tool in between the glass and the vehicle, and then just start working my way around and cutting all of that stuff off. And now when you look at rear quarter glass, you see a lot of molding around there, and you just have to remember that they're not gluing the molding, they're gluing the glass. Sorry, that was out of focus. So they're not gluing the molding over here, they're gluing the glass right here. So that's what you're working on cutting through. Ours had a few clips, but I have seen professionals break these more than once. So rather than try and assume that it's a clip that can be removed with pressure and pressuring it around, I just went ahead and cut through the clips. That way I didn't risk breaking the window. The only clip I left was this one because I want to make sure that that piece of molding stays intact. So just being really careful not to break the window, went ahead and cut it out. So now we're going to go ahead and clean up all the seam around here. And the other thing we spotted is a little bit of rust right here. So I will go ahead and investigate that. Most likely I'll be able to wire wheel off the rust and then hit it with a little bit of rust reformer paint to make sure that that doesn't spread anywhere. All right, we got that window area cleared up, and that's going to help us later on when we need to test fit our window and we're doing our body work down here. This is where I put that rust reformer. Honestly, all the rust came off with that wire wheel and it looked nice and smooth, but it looked nice and like metallic. But I just threw it on there to be extra safe. So now we have our mocked up body panel over here, and the next step is that we need to make room for that wheel to articulate up. So we got to pull this panel off, and I'll show you what the stock body looks like. There we go. And you can see that the wheel has just no room to move. You use the suspension or anything like that. And that's why you got to cut your stock fenders if you want to do this. So the process is we got to cut to make room for the wheel, and then we got to waterproof so we don't destroy the car. The way I like to do this is you got to keep in mind you don't need to cut out here. The wheel only goes pretty much straight up. So then we need to make enough room. And there's a lot of different tools that you can use to do this, but one of the things you want to check is there's an inner skin, or sorry, this is the outer skin, and then there's an inner skin underneath. You want to feel and see how far away that inner skin is to see if you're going to try and cut through both at once, or if you're going to cut one at a time. On this car, the inner skin kind of goes flat and backwards, so we have to cut one piece at a time. So I'm going to go ahead and grab some painter's tape. I'll make my line where I think I'm good with wheel articulation, and then I'm going to grab the cutoff wheel and just cut this outer skin off. All right, I made my line and I cut the outer skin off, and then I just made this cut down here, and that's just to give me vision on this. So you can see that in this vehicle, there's a lot of elevation changes on the inner skin. So there's something up higher here, and then it drops down and it drops down again. So I really wanted to be able to see what I was like doing before I made a plan. Now, when we cut this inner skin, it's going to leave a gap, and filling the gap is the big part of this job and how you want to fill it. One quick and dirty way to fill it is you cut a bunch of slices in this piece right here. You bend them up to meet right here, weld them in all the way around, and then you can take like some fiberglass, come through this and fiberglass that whole area in and sand it smooth. It looks pretty good. Fiberglass is waterproof. You could also spray it with some like truck bed liner type stuff like that. That'll help with the waterproofing and soundproofing. That's a really good way to go about it. I'm gonna try and go like the ultra clean method, which I hope I don't regret later, and which is gonna be, I'm gonna cut inside up here, and then I'm going to template out how big the gap is, cut a strip of metal, and then we're going to weld that metal from here into there. Now, if you're a beginner or if you're cutting close to the edge of the body kit, now you notice our body kit is the whole size of the fender. So if I warp a little bit of metal right here from getting too much heat in it, it's not going to matter because you will not see it over there and it won't affect the vehicle in any way. If you were doing like a Rocket Bunny style kit or something like that where the over fender is not very large, you have to be very careful welding on quarter panels. They are bent metal that is normally pressed, and it's under a lot of stress. As you heat it up, it is very likely to want to warp on you. So it's just something you got to be really careful. We've had cars warp just from sanding on them too hard. So it's just something to keep in mind when you're doing it. If you're a beginner and following along with this, I would definitely go more the fiberglass route. So anyways, that's the game plan right now. I'm going to go ahead and make my line up here. I'm going to cut to try and make sure my wheel has the possibility to get as high as possible in here. I want it to be bottoming out kind of like eye level straight with this, and then I will template out that hole and cut a piece of sheet metal to fill it in. Okay, we got that all cut out, and then I templated out my strip and cut this out of steel. The backside is painted, so with some corrosion resistant steelite. That will help make sure it doesn't rust on the inside. So, and steel, it's also a weld through paint, so you want to think about that too, so you don't just burn your paint on the inside. So this fits right up into here, and then I'm going to be welding this thing. Now, when I go through and weld, I'm going to be tacking and then moving far away and then doing a tack, moving far away and doing another tack. That way it'll spread the heat out and I won't get too much heat in one area, which is what's going to cause that warping. So just really slow and steady all the way around, and I should get about what looks like 1,000,000 tacks. Then we grind it down, do a bunch more, grind it down, and eventually it'll look like one solid piece of metal. All right, we got that fully welded up, so you can see that this is just like a seamless, like one piece of metal, next piece of metal. I just, filled this whole thing with weld and then sanded it down. It does introduce some like visual, it kind of looks like wobbles in here where we didn't really have any before, which is kind of interesting. Now, keep in mind, this is all very, very hidden, but this is an expensive car, so I wanted to make it look as good as I could underneath. In retrospect, I don't think, if I were to do this again, I don't think I would do this that way again. I mean, we're gonna do it this way on both sides because so they match, but I think what I would do is put a lot of tacks and then seam sealer, and just do a nice line of seam sealer all the way around and call that good. The seam sealer is gonna block out all the weather, and the tacks are gonna hold the metal in there very nicely. And I think that is a good enough way to do it. I think this is maybe a little bit overkill, and it also just introduces a lot of opportunities for warping your body panels. And like I said, since we're doing a huge over quarter panel, it's not really a big problem, but if you're doing a smaller over fender, that could be a huge problem. So next step would be some sort of undercoating. I would recommend probably just a rattle can truck bed liner under there because it has some sound deadening properties and it'll be nice and waterproof. If not, you could use spray paint as well, just something so it doesn't rust. We're not going to do that right now. We're going to move on to bonding our panel on. So again, this is a bonded molded panel on over fender, over quarter panel. So what we need to do is remove all the paint where we're going to do the bonding. So we're going to place the panel on here, run a line with a marker everywhere that the panel is going to adhere to the quarter panel, and we'll go ahead and sand all that paint off. The other thing that we're going to quickly do is scuff up all the rest of this red and hit it with steelite black. If somebody catches a view underneath our quarter panel, which should be impossible, but if it ever were to happen, I don't want it to be shining bright red. It needs to be at least a neutral color, so we're going to hit it with black. We threw our panel on here and we real quickly traced around, but one thing I forgot that we needed to figure out before we start finalizing everything and the placement of everything is how the side skirt is going to attach to the car. And because it's a fiberglass body kit and the way it's kind of coming together, we don't have any of the OEM kind of snap clip points or anything like that. We have all the mounting points from the bottom of the car to be able to put traditional style screws in, but we have no way of attaching it all through that railing through there and attaching it to our quarter panel. So we're going to be panel bonding the side skirt as well. And I'll show you all about this adhesive and panel bonding materials and stuff like that afterwards, but it's a really good candidate. It's built to mount fiberglass to fiberglass. So what we got to do is make sure, I mean, this is great. This is right where we want this to go for the quarter panel. That matches up really nicely. We got a good seam. So yeah, we are now able to proceed, but as we're removing this paint, we should just remove all the paint that the side skirt needs removed as well. So we'll trace around the side skirt and make sure to get all that paint off of there too. All right, cool. We got our panel in here. There's no gapping around there, except for this one spot right here. We're gonna actually be using a screw. We're gonna screw it all the way in, and then we'll panel bond, and then we'll unscrew it and fill it with body filler. And then we got the side skirt on. So this is like our test fit to make sure everything's exactly where we want it to be before we essentially just glue it to the car. So now that that's good, we're ready to get the substrates ready to be glued together. So the panel bonding, let me show you what it is here. Talk to my friends in the industry that do a lot of this type of stuff, and this is what they use, the SEM Dual Mix. SEM is a really good company. They make a lot of really, really good stuff, and they actually hooked us up a while back. But anyways, so this is the stuff that we're gonna be using. We got a 90-minute working time. It's gonna set up in 4 hours. It's gonna cure in 24. So basically we can take the Clecos out in 24 hours. We don't have the gun. Our gun is not really made to, it's just not the right size for this bad boy, so we're gonna have to find a way to mix this ourselves and squirt it out. But you read the instructions on here, and what it says is that it is good for fiberglass, good for metal, and good for fiberglass to fiberglass. Now the one thing is this red paint that was done under here, it's not the best quality paint job, and you can see from a lot of this chipping and stuff that they didn't have the best prep work. So we're not trusting any of this paint in any bonding situations, which means that all the red paint has to go when it's coming to all the surfaces around that. That's why we trace that line. So we're gonna come in now, we're gonna sand off all the red paint everywhere that we're thinking about adding adhesive, and then we're also gonna spray the red paint under the quarter panel area so it's all black. Got all that paint ground off, and then we got our paint scuffed up here. It's ready for the steel it. I did learn kind of one thing kind of hit me as I was thinking about this. If we don't, say if you don't primer this, and then whatever doesn't have glue on it and doesn't get glued together with the fiberglass, this is exposed to the weather, and it will rust, and it would be very, very bad. So usually, you know, you put a primer and then your glue, but this type of adhesive really wants to go bare metal onto fiberglass. So we have to make sure that we are gluing. All of the bare metal has to be glued. So what we're gonna do is we've measured our surface area that we have on the fiberglass panel that actually contacts the metal. We've measured that out. It's about 3/8. So we're gonna go ahead and mask. We've redrawn our lines on here. We're gonna mask all these off 3/8, and then we're gonna paint everything black. When we take the masking off, then we know that's everywhere where we gotta cover up. All that bare metal has to be covered up with the panel bond, and then we will have like a very corrosive resistant protected surface, which is gonna be exactly what we need. But I guess we can't find exactly what we need because the 3/8 tape is gone. We've got a little full here at the shop. We've been losing a lot of things because we've got stuff for like 4 different builds, and we're out of space. We are actively continuing to work on building the other shop, but man, it's, you know, we're trying to build a 5,000 square foot building situation. It's not easy. It's not easy at all. So I'm actually kind of working on a secondary plan to expand the paint booth by a couple 100 square feet or something, so we have more space to work. I'd love to have it be a situation where we could have 2 builds going at once. So yeah, and that might help with us to stop losing things.
Yes.
If anybody out there has an extra GTR power steering reservoir, I ordered one and I lost it. Hey, we found the tape though.
Found the tape.
All right. Okay, our tape thing worked really well. So we did our tape lines, painted everything, and the paint's drying right now. We pulled our tape off. So every bit of bare metal there has to be covered in the panel bonding material. It wants the panel bonding sauce on there and on the panel as well. So we're gonna go ahead and mix this stuff up and start applying it to the panels. We'll just use our little stand over there, apply a little bit to the edge of the panels everywhere, and then when this is dry enough, we'll come by and apply it to the car. And then we just smush everything on and throw our Cleco pins in there to hold it steady so it can dry overnight. All right, well, that was mildly stressful. It started to kind of harden up on us. We're supposed to have 90 minutes working time, but I think we got it a little extra warm in the shop to try and, I wanted to make sure that we don't drop below the acceptable curing temperatures tonight, so I turned the heater on, and we might have toasted it up a little bit, so we got a little bit less time, but you can see we've got that panel bonding material all around everywhere that it needs to be, bonding this panel on here for good. Now, in the next episode, we're going to show you guys how we're going to, you know, radius all these corners and sand all this and flush all this out. That's the final piece, you know, before you're going to paint or wrap or whatever else you might do. That's the final piece, and we'll show you all that in the next episode. And we got to do the other side as well, so we'll catch up on that in the next episode. Thank you guys so much for watching. Thanks for tuning in. If you want to see any more episodes from this playlist, make sure that you subscribe or check out the playlist. You can see how we got to this point where we actually have an R35 sitting on top of an... Wait, we have an R34 sitting on top of an R35. I know my cars. We have an R69 situation. Thank you guys so much for watching. We'll see you guys on the next one. Peace!